Some truths don't shout to be heard. They slip into ordinary moments unnoticed at first, then stay heavy in the heart long after. This is one of those moments. It happened on a quiet morning in a calm American neighborhood, where nothing seemed unusual until a simple act revealed everything about dignity, privilege, and kindness. An elderly woman stood on the sidewalk with a broom in her hands. Her name was Margaret Lewis. She was 68 years old, small in frame, her back slightly bent from decades of honest work. Every weekday morning, she wore the same faded sanitation jacket, pulled a cap over her thinning gray hair, and stepped outside with quiet determination. She didn't expect gratitude. She didn't expect respect. She only believed that work done with care still mattered. Margaret had raised her children alone after life took an unexpected turn years ago. Retirement benefits weren't enough, so she worked part-time cleaning streets most people passed without thought. The looks she received were familiar. Some smiled politely. Others looked away. Many never saw her at all. That morning, she was sweeping near a row of garbage bins outside a modern apartment complex. The sun was bright, the air calm, everything ordinary. Then laughter drifted toward her. Near the entrance stood a young woman, confident, well-dressed, surrounded by friends. Her voice was loud, careless, comfortable, unaware of how heavy comfort can become when it lacks compassion. As the young woman noticed Margaret, her expression shifted, not with concern, but irritation, a casual gesture, a careless remark. Her friends laughed along. It wasn't loud cruelty. It was quieter than that. It was indifference. Margaret paused, not because she was afraid, but because she was used to stepping aside. She lowered her eyes, tightened her grip on the broom, and quietly moved away to give them space. No words, no reaction. Just dignity learned through years of being overlooked. What no one realized was that this moment was being watched. From inside a parked car across the street, a man sat silently as his world began to change forever. From inside the parked car, the man felt something tighten in his chest. His name was Richard Carter, a self-made millionaire who had built his success from nothing. He was used to controlling outcomes, closing deals, shaping futures, but in that moment, he could do nothing except watch. And what he was watching unsettled him deeply. He wasn't observing a stranger's behavior. He was watching the woman his son loved. A woman who lived in comfort, protected from struggle, surrounded by ease. And suddenly, Richard understood something he had never wanted to admit. Wealth had given his family security, but it had also quietly taken away their sensitivity to others. Margaret finished sweeping and continued down the street, her small figure growing distant with every step. She never looked back. Richard watched until she disappeared around the corner. He remained in the car long after, replaying the scene again and again, wishing he hadn't seen it yet knowing he needed to. That evening, Richard invited his son and daughter-in-law over for dinner. His voice was calm, his manner unchanged. The conversation began like any other. Work, plans, ordinary talk. Then gently, Richard shifted the subject. He spoke about respect, about how a society is measured not by its wealth, but by how it treats those who do the quiet, invisible work. He mentioned the elderly sanitation worker from that morning. Slowly, recognition filled the young woman's eyes. Her smile faded. The room grew still. Richard did not accuse. He did not raise his voice. He spoke with disappointment, not anger. He reminded her that dignity does not come from clothes, neighborhoods, or status. It comes from character. And one day, the values she practiced would shape not only her life, but the family she was part of. She tried to explain herself, but the words felt hollow even to her. That night, sleep refused to come. The image of the elderly woman with the broom, silent, steady, unseen, kept returning. For the first time, she questioned herself. And that quiet discomfort became the beginning of change. Change did not arrive all at once. It came slowly, in uncomfortable thoughts and quiet realizations that followed her through the days. The image of the elderly woman with the broom refused to fade. For the first time, she began to notice the people she had once passed without a second. Glance, the cleaners, the guards, the workers who kept life moving while remaining invisible. A few days later, on the same street, she saw Margaret again. This time there were no friends beside her, no laughter to hide behind. She stood still for a moment, feeling the weight of hesitation, then walked forward and gently offered a bottle of water. Her voice was soft. Her eyes were lowered. There was no excuse in her words, only sincerity. Margaret looked up, surprised. For a brief second, time seemed to pause. Then she accepted the water with a small nod. No bitterness. No judgment. Just quiet grace. That simple exchange stayed with the young woman far longer than she expected. Over the following weeks, small changes followed. She began greeting people by name. She listened instead of interrupting. She learned to see worth where she once saw background noise. Kindness became a practice, not a performance. From a distance, Richard watched silently. He said nothing, understanding that real transformation cannot be commanded. It must be chosen. One morning, Margaret noticed something different on her route. The woman in the red dress stood nearby again, not watching with amusement, but with respect. No words were exchanged. Margaret nodded politely and returned to her work, broom steady in her hands. If this moment made you pause, remember this. Kindness does not require wealth, power, or applause. Sometimes it begins by simply seeing someone. Before you go, think of one small act of respect you can offer this week. A greeting, a thank you, a moment of patience. Because the greatest lessons are often taught quietly by those who ask for nothing, yet show us everything about dignity.